Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I am joined by this nerd.
Murder Doug.
What's up, brother? How's it going tonight?
Fantastic. Oh, I gotta mute this thing here in a
Oh
second.
no,
There we go.
I didn't
There
hear
we
anything though, so it was a
go. It
close
was
call. Close call,
me.
but we survived it.
Yep, so we're here to talk about nights when the sun goes down and it gets dark out.
Oh
And
shit, I misspelled it then.
no, I'm kidding. Yeah, it is nights. I was just gonna try and trick you. It's nights with a K.
Yeah, the
But
Knights.
maybe next week it'll be nice. We've been doing that with like runes and ruins and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe nightmares. I don't know. Do we do nightmares yet? I don't know.
Probably.
We've done a
Doing
lot. We
these
do a
for
lot of these.
years.
Well, I don't know. What do people want us to talk about next week? You could throw that in the chat, right? You
Yeah.
guys have something you want, a topic you want us to cover, which is fine because I won't be here next week. I'll just stick it with Doug and Ted. So just come up with ridiculous stuff.
Hey, in worst case, if I can't think of something to say, I'll just
Lame Ted.
I'll just button it up and let Ted pull the ripcord because he'll get talk for the whole hour if you let him go.
Oh man. So do knights come up in your games?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, I like Knights. I just think it's a cool thing since I was a kid. I mean, it's classic. So, and a lot of games like dabble in Fey stuff. And to me, that's like Knights are a super big part of that too, like fables and mystery
Yeah,
stories
like
and stuff.
kind of like traditional
Yeah.
folklore, lore,
Yeah.
legends.
Yeah, like that. And it's just a kind of cool thing, it's like it's like it evokes a certain like an order and a code and just armored heroes that just go out there and meet up justice and do quests and stuff. It's a perfect archetype for like an adventurer.
Yeah, we got a couple subclasses that are specifically knights, right?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
but the fighter seems to really have leaned into that as like their thing, where it's like that's like the structure for their subclasses, which makes the martial archetypes, which makes sense because it's like, well, they are specific disciplines revolving around combat, whether it's a samurai or the cavalier, rune knight, echo knight, sign knight, eldritch knight. It's like their disciplined approach to battle involves like
oh,
magic or
I wasn't even thinking of those, right? Like, I mean, we're gonna get a couple of those in the upcoming.
purple dragon knight.
That one I was thinking of. I was thinking more like Purple Dragon Knight, Cavalier, and even to some extent the Samurai, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean
absolutely.
that's kind of a Japanese knight, right?
Yeah, they have a
Especially
code, and it's not exactly
a
chivalry.
feudal system. So
A courtly system. They get like
yeah,
calligraphy skills and some social skills that deal with like court matters. They're not knights are nobles or a title at least.
yeah.
At least in real life. I mean, it was like it conferred some authority, land.
I feel
You
like
know,
feel like Paladin gives us like one knight as well.
yeah, that's sort of like a super heroic knight.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I consider like Oath of the Crown more knightly
oh yeah,
than
yeah, for sure.
than whole. Yeah, I mean they are holy champions, but like I mean they're almost like Arthurian, right?
Maybe
And
your Arthurian knights are the fighter knights, and like King Arthur is a paladin. It's like
yeah,
okay, y'all are knights, sure, but it's like I can lay on hands. I have like myths about me,
well,
prophecies.
I think it's more so like the Oath of the Crown, like powers aside, but the Oath of the Crown, they king like they swear an oath kind of like king and country and authors like he the land was kind of tied to him and how well the land did.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like spiritual connection. I
Oh,
feel
that's
that a
true.
little
Yeah,
bit.
that's a good point. What are the Oath of the Crown's like broad strokes powers? I haven't looked at that in a long time.
Most of them are like you fight me, very
Oh,
like
really?
yeah
So that you're like the
dueling.
champion of the realm. That makes total sense. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
like Lancelot would have been like that, where it's like, he was like he was above a knight. He was like the knight of knights. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Sir Lancelot. At least I should preface this like most of my a lot of my view of knights is influenced by Excalibur.
Yeah, yeah. Although I believe Joe's correct in the chat. He says Galahad was actually a paladin,
Mhm.
which I mean, especially like Arthurian and like some of the historical or fictional
Yeah,
characters. Knight and
mythical.
paladin is a really like a thin line, right?
Sure. Yeah, but the flip side of that is like Knight, you think it evokes this like heroic champion stuff. But I'm sure there was plenty of shitheads that got knighted and they were like just jerk barons that
Yeah, just
like,
watch
yeah,
Game
I'm
of
the champion of the king, so you better just pay me all those taxes, or maybe the king's justice will be
yeah
meted upon you. You know what I mean? Like,
Game of Thrones, man. Like the Hound was
yeah,
a knight, his brother was a knight.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Even the mercenary guy, I never forget his name, but I love the character, the guy that lived through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. He gets knighted later on. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
something you throw out there. Yeah,
yeah.
I can't think
So
of his
it's
name
just a
off the
fun
top of my head either.
concept to have in any game because it's like, it can tell you something about the culture, like what kind of knightly orders are there? Like, if even if it's the legit protectors of the realm, it's like, well, what are they like? Are they really just and good and true, or are they, corrupt? Or are they blackguards?
I have given out. So I guess like also being a knight, like I don't know that it was weird. Like the first edition, second edition, Cavalier was weird. Like you didn't have to be good. You just had to follow the code of chivalry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you followed that, you could be shitty. Like you could be evil. I think you had to be lawful.
Just like in real life. Like
Yeah.
you can follow the laws and find all the loopholes and stuff, or just depending on your interpretation.
Brom, Ron,
Yes,
One
right.
of those. It's driving me
Yeah, it's just
nuts.
a cool. Were you gonna say like you've awarded knighthoods to like characters and stuff?
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like, how cool is that to be, like Sir whatever?
our
Especially,
first
what's that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
our first 5e game, one of the characters became a knight. Like, so spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Also, we stopped putting them up after a while. But like, well, Bloodfang was the Dragonborn kind of like bodyguard to Falcor.
Okay.
Both of them were Dragonborns, and they kind of got like they got sucked into the realm that we play in Ulthgania, and it just outside of Griffin-Gaff, and eventually like a portal gets stabilized and opened, and they can go back and forth, and like the Dragon Emperor grants Falcor diplomat status and kind of elevates his status,
Okay.
which was slightly probably below where Falcor would tell people he was, but that's like completely different. But yeah, he knighted. He knighted Bloodfang, and then like Bloodfang had to like ended up changing his name, like taking the name and it was like Victorious Bloodfang or something, and Bloodfang kind of became the surname. But
Mhm.
so I actually awarded him the benefits of the knight background, right? The noble.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like I kind of bestowed that on him, and then he also got a mount. He got one of the Dranthers,
Nice.
and then he got his lackeys as well. So like he got like the benefits of being from the knight background, which the player thought was kind of cool. So they
Mhm.
kind of had like dual backgrounds.
That's a really cool idea for a reward too.
Yeah, and then like the weapon he'd been using got upgraded to a flame tongue as well.
Oh man. So yeah, he's a dragonborn knight atop a Dranther steed with a flame tongue. That's pretty
Oh
damn
yeah.
cool looking.
Also, I tend to give out alternate rewards. So like he had gotten his maximum strength raised to like a 22. So he was kind of beastly on the battlefield.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So the session that we ended that game with was the party, because like so that player was leaving the game,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, how you want to do this, right? What do you want to happen to your character? And he's like, I kind of want to go out in a blaze of glory, and I was like, done. So like we had him go out in a blaze of glory, and the which is cool for a night too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he totally does the holding the bridge thing, right? Um, and so when they finally encounter him again, like at the the final like Vargarian complex, like we left off with them encountering him as a Vargarian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How that had probably been, I mean, not even in our time, but in the campaign, it probably had been a while.
Yeah, yeah. In the campaign, it definitely maybe longer in the real world, but in the campaign itself, yeah, it had been a while, and I know like their 20th level, and one they were not happy about having to square off against a Vargarian Bloodfang because Bloodfang did a lot of freaking damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'd given out a different reward where it was like this ice crystal that you could embed in something, and depending on what you did with it would determine what it did. So he embedded it in his sword, which then turned it from a flame tongue to a flame tongue that also did ice damage as well.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
basically like a double flame tongue, fire and ice.
Sure.
um so every time he hits, he was rolling with 6 die 6 to begin with a bunch of a bunch of strength on top of that. He had the great weapon master feat, so he would wreck things often.
Yeah, and if he was just a straight up fighter, I mean, 20th level, you get like 8 attacks or something like that.
Oh yeah, action surge, and at that point you get more than one action surge.
Yeah, and I think your attack is like when you take the attack action, you can make like 3 or 4 attacks or something like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and he's a champion, right? So he crits on a at that point. I think he's critting on a 19 or a 20.
Yeah.
Well, then as a bonus action, you can take an extra attack with Great Weapon Master. So, in all probability, he would get 9 swings with that great sword. I think Ted, though, I think he like we never got to finish that campaign, but I think Ted was planning on using his what is a cleric ability? Divine intervention
Oh.
to try and bring him back, right? To save him.
Oh, okay.
Um and, yeah, and then I know like they had messed something up earlier in that adventure,
Mhm.
and I know my brother wanted to have Falcor do a wish time rewind on it. So
That's a big wish.
it is a big wish, and that would definitely be in the 30% of wiping your wish from your memory for good.
Yeah.
But it was the last session, so like
Sure.
I
Yeah,
don't
you
think
got to
they
pull out
cared.
all the epic stats. I mean, you made it that far. You got to cast all the spells, do all the things. Be crazy not to. So
Yeah.
there was one of many campaigns that just sort of like never finished or whatever. There was my friend Brian played a champion fighter, I think, and he had the knight background, except like his family like sort of like were scoundrels, like that
Yeah.
show where they with the guy from Fargo, and they pretend to be, or like they're scammers and stuff's on HBO. I don't remember. But anyway, so they just sort of like scammed their way into like being landed people.
Yeah.
And they had an encounter with Kenku bandit tribe, and his he had described his like family crest as being like this black raven, and so they saw that and sort of looked like them, and then we sort of went off in a direction where like maybe they were linked to his family's history and stuff, but campaign just never went anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Joe
that
wants
was
to
pretty
know.
fun. That they went into the Fey. Oh, that was the group that went into the Feywild, and for the like, they had such unfortunate roles. Like days became weeks or months or something like that. And
Yeah.
then the first day they woke up, they realized some trying to like forgot why they were there. So they just like didn't, they weren't in any hurry to get back. So
That's
that's the
funny.
group that your group was looking for when we started playing in our Nerdaki group. They had just never come back as far as anybody knew. Because
Yeah. So, Bernardo, do you know a system to help a DM calculate the XP or CR for an item? Can you elaborate a little bit? I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. And then Joe wants to know what kind of knights would serve a gold dragon based on George Washington. Ones that ride giant eagles, of course.
Yeah, you win.
Have you seen the YouTube video George Washington?
No.
Not safe for work, but it's hilarious.
Mm. So another somebody said I was just thinking about Dragon Knights. Yeah, that's a classic thing, like the Dragoon and stuff from Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
Drake Warden reminded me of that from the Unearthed
Oh, the
Arcanum.
Ranger one, yeah. And then like eventually, I mean, if you start as a small character, you'll be able to ride. You can use it as a mount right away. But
Hmm.
as you level up, you definitely be able to turn it into a mount.
But it'd still be cool to just attack with the Drake at your side, and for my money, if you're a Dragon Knight, I know it's not optimal, but I mean you got to wear scale mail, and Rangers got that too, medium armor right off the bat. There you go.
Oh yeah, yeah. You said scale mail, and I was thinking my brain replaced scale mail with dragon scale. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal to wear dragon scale mail. It's not bad.
No, no, I just meant for the proficiency.
Yeah. And then you get to look like a dragon high lord from Dragonlance. I was like,
Hmm.
that and draconians were probably the best. The best part
How
of
many Dragon
Dragonlance.
High Lords do you think like signed up for the job just because they saw those cool uniforms and like,
Yeah, I want to wear that armor and ride a dragon.
yeah.
Fuck yeah, man.
What do you want us to do again?
Uh, so I mean, you don't really need it. Like, you can pass level 20. It's just that the rules switch to boons after levels. Um, and there's also third party stuff out there that kind of does, like 2C Gaming. They have like a
Yeah.
legendary or epic level supplement that lets you go all the way up to level 30.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like I don't know that you need an item to do that if you want to adventure past level 20. Uh, it gets a bit tricky because like your guy the party are all gods.
Well, maybe like do they have a small group and they just want to keep it going with those characters? So maybe they're just looking for, ways to
Yeah.
keep increasing the challenge, right? Okay.
I don't
Yes.
know.
Yeah, it's kind of a noodly question.
Yeah, I mean, or if you're so like
Like,
instead of thinking of terms like how do I get them to 101 as CR25 is it's more like, well, what do you think they need to, what does that CR25 look like, right? Like
hmm.
there's some so the monsters are kind of all over the place and they are not all created equal, right?
Hmm.
Like the Tarask is one of the highest CRs in the game, but it's also kind of disappointing as far as monsters go of that magnitude.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've come. It shows up at a lot when I'm doing research for things because it's got like a lot of the most hit points and it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
highest CR thing. And I mean, I hope it's tongue in cheek when people are like a first level Eric Croker with +1 bow could easily defeat it or whatever. It's like okay, whatever. I mean, it's still really powerful. It's got a huge AC that's
Yeah.
hard to hit. The max hit points, and its average are like 990. It's got resistance to magic, spells just bounce right off it and stuff like that. And, it's like that's pretty powerful. And
Yeah.
taking into account like I mean, if you get into like the nitty gritty of the rules, like its size and what it can do, like does have a factor, in combat. It's not just like a sack of hit points and AC. I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't do anything cool with it, but
I did see someone try and apply the argument that, you know, that a Tarask could only throw something 60 feet because that's what the improvised weapon rules are. But I'm like, it's a legendary monster. I don't think they have to adhere to those.
oh, I don't know. I think even like giants and stuff, the rocks are. Oh yeah, they are because there's things for size like that's.
Yeah.
It's in the DMG again, like we were just talking before we came out of how often I look in that. There's modifiers for that. Like if you're a bigger size, there's different distances you can throw things, and lifting and carrying capacity and all that.
Yeah. Although, like you mentioned giants, I think looking at giants to just see what the giant strength and how far they can throw a boulder,
Mm-hmm.
it would be maybe not the same because there's an amount of skill that goes behind,
Sure, sure.
giants and rock throwing. It's their thing. But that being said, I mean, you could look at that and kind of be like, roughly, that'll
Mm.
work.
You know what would be cool for knights? I was thinking, especially with Tasha's coming out, at least on D&D Beyond and in people's mailboxes and tomorrow, a couple
Yeah, I should
hours.
have brought them down with me. I've got a couple of them sitting here.
A nightly order or just a night as a group patron. That would be pretty cool for your campaign because it sort of gives some structure and sort of you know give you an idea what kind of quests you would go on and things like that. Resources. That's just cool. Uh, learn about a code and be connected to the setting that way. It
Well,
wouldn't have to be knights, but you could still
yeah.
have a nightly order as your patron.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they're like really strict and have rules and like,
Maybe
you know,
you're a bunch of jerks and a-holes, and that's like your sentence is
ma-
to like work
maybe,
for
or
this
or
nightly
it just
order.
happens to be what they need.
Yeah,
Like they're like they hire you on the down low because what they
you're
when
under
they
the
need,
table.
you know,
You're under the table, patron.
yeah, because they're like, well, what we need done isn't very nightly, so we think you guys
Yeah.
would be able to do it.
Hmm. And it makes me think of the Bloodfang or other characters that achieve knighthood. Like even in that group, it can be a pretty great story moment if that wasn't something you were expecting. Maybe imagine your character was this like from the streets criminal whose
Yeah.
parents and family were all killed and stuff. It's like that's what's awesome about D&D. Your story might emerge that like, wow, that guy became like an honorable knight. That's pretty cool. You know just the
Yeah.
same as if somebody aspired to be that their whole life, they might even not even have wanted or thought of that at all.
Yeah. So if you're looking to just, kind of level up beyond level 20, like that's literally what that product is from uh, 2C Gaming. It's like Epic Legacy. It basically adds another 21 through 30th levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine it's like depending on what class you are, you get more options.
And they have plenty of ways to challenge those characters that are that high of level with those things too.
Yeah, that's kind of like their thing, making like
Mm-hmm.
crazy high level
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
So yeah, I totally. That's a great suggestion. But much better than anything I would think of.
Yeah,
Than
I like also like they put a lot of time and energy into playtesting it, so
mm-hmm.
it kind of only makes sense to be like, well, we could spat out some stuff, but if you like this is something you really want to run, they've kind of done the math and figured it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't they have like epic level monster battle events or
Oh yeah, yeah. So they have like these oh man, what do they call it?
it's probably got a really
Oh,
cool.
it's called a TPK tournament, right?
Oh, okay.
And the so the idea is like you go through and you kind of get graded. Here's an Amazon link if you're looking for the hardback or whatever.
Mm.
That's an affiliate link. So if you go and buy something over there, it helps us.
Mm.
Full disclaimer. So yeah, so like I think it was like based off of how long it takes you, like loot stuff, mission achievements, and then you get to the big bad, which I think technically you're not supposed to be able to beat, right?
Oh yeah,
And I know like
it will TPK you.
yeah, like I know they did Xanathar's one year, right? And after you actually face Xanathar, um, then he comes back as a death tyrant, right? And
Okay.
then you have to say so then the fight goes on. And probably not like a regular death tyrant either, but probably
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
souped up one.
sure.
And then like they did something
Oh
similar with
yeah,
Strahd.
they had a whole like big thing about like the different beholder type creatures and stuff like those
Yeah,
aberrant.
yeah, they did like these other. They did a Kickstarter for like these otherworldly beings and stuff.
Yeah, I think I was up there in the show.
Um, which is kind of cool. And like
Mm-hmm.
they like to do stuff that's really tactical and like how to like beef up monsters and encounters and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So when they do monster products, it's not just that.
Boy, the last time I played any super high level stuff was probably that gold box Immortals set. Like I've
Oh
never
yeah.
played much high level D&D beyond that, and we were just Monty Hall on that. I mean, we were probably
Well,
like
I mean,
sixth and seventh
you
grade.
played in Ted's last session.
That's true. That was
Um,
fun. Is that Ultra Law?
yeah, you played an Ultra. You didn't even play a regular standard character. You played the monster.
Yeah, I tweaked his stat block and gave it to Ted ahead of time just to give him a little extra stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I kind of pitched that to Ted, and talking to him about like what the situation was. And
Well, yeah, man. If you're gonna show up for like basically for you it was a one shot.
yeah,
And just like why not go, and you like the campaign at that point is so high, right? Like
hmm
almost anything would work.
hmm
So why
yeah,
not?
that was fun. Would I play a dragon as a foe in a campaign? Yeah, of course. I love dragons as foes of the of the characters. I am one of those people that's like, throw them in there. There's all those ages of
Yeah.
dragons for a reason. Dragging it up. Especially if you're playing with somebody for their first time or their first adventure. It's like, yeah, dragon. In some capacity. It could be a wormling.
Well, so like when we had Megan Miracle on, one of the kobolds,
Uh-huh.
they they were talking about the first time that they played, like their her parents were running a game, and they
Oh, that's
used
right. Yeah,
and they used what you call it, Council of Worms, and it's like
yeah.
get to be a dragon, and it's like, oh, can I be a baby dragon? Yes, sold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wormling though, it doesn't really evoke, terror, right? Like
No, not quite.
players probably like, oh, a little wormling. I want to, let's make it our pet and stuff. That's
Till it's
happened to
eating
me
your
many a
face.
time with dragon wormlings, like
Yeah.
Sunless Citadel.
So the
many,
Ultra Loft you played, was it souped up?
yeah, a little bit.
Because I mean, it's only CR13, so that seems a little weak
Oh,
for.
then yeah, a lot. And I gave him like a few different spells and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that seems kind of weak for the level party. And I think you were supposed to be like some kind of like great general or something, right? Wasn't that like the story?
Yeah. Where did
Oh.
I put that?
Also, so Joe also asked about the idea of a mind flayer knight. So mind flayer knights would be kind of weird. Like I've seen some mind flayer variants in the past, and they're always like aberrations in the sense that they're like a more physical character, because that's like the antithesis of what a mind flayer is. They always
Yeah.
look
Oh, yeah.
they always look kind of
That would
frail.
be too crude to even imagine.
Yeah,
Like,
like
put on armor and fight you with a sword? Like, no.
what do I look like what do I look like, a thrall?
Yeah. That's what I enslave people for.
Yeah, I mean
Your brains turn them-
you're definitely getting made fun of by all the other mind flayers.
Yeah.
If you do that, I don't, they're just not going to appreciate it.
Yeah. You'd be the pariah.
But I mean, I can see definitely you could do it, but like so I wonder like, what that would look like, right? So to me, like I start thinking about it, and like maybe they're like an order of mind flayers that kind of go out and hunt.
Get the Yankee.
Yeah, get the Yankee. And what is this special thing they put together called? They have
I don't know.
yeah, I know.
What,
Like
mind flayers?
no, they get Yankee when they do the mind flayer hunt.
Rakma or something.
Yeah,
like
it's something like that.
Rakma, I think it is.
Yeah.
So
But,
like the opposite number to that.
Well, yeah, opposite.
Boy, I think,
or maybe they hunt those. They hunt the hunters.
boy, you could really have some crazy campaigns if that was like your backdrop of like, sort of like interplanar James Bond-esque
Oh yeah.
espionage. Instead of Spectre and Control, it's like mind flayers and the Get the Yankee. That would be pretty weird.
Or maybe mind flayer. Maybe mind flayer knights aren't actually mind flayers. Like they have those special thralls where they kind of like remake your personality.
Yeah.
And maybe they just build knights to use.
They have so many ways of manipulating people. It's like, sure, they could do that, or they could get an intellect device to turn your brain to mush and then just control you, or
Make you a Bob suit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty insidious creature. We're not talking about Night so much, but like that is just one of those like just vile creatures, an intellect device. I mean, man,
Yeah.
almost totally indetectable. It's not even like they act different. They know everything you know, including like spells and languages and everything. Just like so they could totally act like you were. You'd never know.
Now you got so now I'm on this mind flayer kick, right? Which has caused me to open up the mind flayer
Mm-hmm.
section in D&D Beyond. And I'm actually kind of disappointed. 135 hit points for a CR for a challenge 22.
It's not all about the hit points, though.
I don't know, man. I've seen some
I,
parties
I
open up.
I don't know if it's just like maybe the isolation of 2020 and being so
Yeah.
immersed in D&D, but like I've really and so I'm always like looking through these books because we're writing and creating content. But like part of me, and I was first thought of this when we looked at the Mummy closely. It's like
Yeah.
these stat blocks really tell you a lot about what they're supposed to be like. Like that Mummy, people are like, yeah, but it's died so easily. It's like I think that's the point, because it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, we killed it. It's like it'll be back. It'll come back the next day, and then the next day, and the next day until you destroy its heart. And it's like if you don't know that first of all, and then know where it is, this thing could be coming after you forever and just keep. It's like it doesn't care if you like, sure, burn me up, whatever. I'll just be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll turn the city into a sandstorm, and summon a plague of beetles the next day, and it's like the whole miles radius around it becomes like cursed and everything if it stays in one place. They're crazy. So if it's almost like you say, if you're playing a wizard and you're in melee combat, something has gone wrong. It's like if you're a mind flayer and you're getting hit in combat, something has gone terribly wrong for you.
Yeah, I can dig it. You've put yourself in a bad place.
Yeah,
But I don't know. Players can be resourceful, and
sure,
they always find a
and they should
way.
be. I mean,
Uh,
that's the tough thing about being a DM. It's like, well, it's no matter how many creatures you can, create on the battlefield, it's still one brain against a group of players.
yeah.
Like, and I don't have a 25 intelligence. I'm pretty smart, but I'm not like, illithid levels of intellect where it's like I can't, play 70 chess and like outwit the players. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do. And I don't have like the conviction, to know what the mind flayers plans would be exactly. That would be so like ironclad.
Although they do have invisibility, and you get to drop on the party, hit them with that mind blast.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's just like and then they
Yeah.
just start eating your brains.
Start eating the brains.
Terrifying.
Uh,
And probably, I mean, I don't know, getting the drop on a mind flayer, if you even had one intellect devourer nearby, it's like it can detect any thoughts within 300 feet. So it's like you'd have to just teleport right into its presence, basically.
yeah.
But think about how much intrigue like Mind Flayer Knights and Githyanki Knights would have with each other. Like they'd probably do those kind of things. Like we're going to need an intellect devourer for this mission, to detect their thoughts, and like maybe, what else could like your Q character be like? I have a slot tadpole for you. You might use this on your mission.
Oh, nice.
Like there's been news of an astral dreadnought nearby.
Colville's idea of using players for big bads.
Yeah, like the characters from former campaigns and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's always cool. I mean, like that's actually when we started this conversation, I kind of talked about that using one of the
Blood Bane.
players. Yeah, because why have them just simply go away? Bring them back for more fun. Yeah. So The yeah, so I wonder how would you kind of like start incorporating like Psi Knights and Rune Knights as organizations? Like it's
Well, I mean, like I said, thinking of it as sort of like this disciplined approach to combat. I
yeah.
mean, and those things are so specific. I could easily see like, you know, remote or not, huge numbers of people. Would probably be like small groups of people that are like preserving those things, dedicated to training those things. I mean, I don't think there'd be like cyanites, on every street corner, or maybe there would. That's depending on how much you want to integrate that into your campaign. I mean, maybe that's just what like the standard soldier training in your world is. You know,
Well, and
it's
also maybe that's where you start kind of um looking, like for the mind flayer, right? The idea of a side night probably works out pretty good for that.
Oh,
Uh,
I didn't know you meant specifically about my thing. You really are like kind of
well,
intrigued by that.
no, just like thinking of those, it kind of brings it back full circle. Like, oh well, why, sometimes we like think too hard to how to do things, but like like the framework might already be there, right? So there's a subclass
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is kind of like obviously psionics is mind flayers, and then you just add the knight to it, and
Mm-hmm.
you're golden, right? So that's that's definitely a thing to kind of look at. I was
And
gonna
I
I was
don't.
gonna pull up the Psi Knight from D&D Beyond, but it looks like they pulled all the UA already in anticipation of the release of Tasha's tonight.
So that's a good point. I mean, looking at it from a player point of view, but for DMs or even players, in light of when you're talking about playing that ultra loth, it's like maybe your campaign you just play the stat blocks of mind flayers and use these other things to build on them. Like start with the
Uh,
mind flayer, then maybe there's like the generic knight CR3 thing, and you gain like the brave trait like as a reward instead of leveling up, right? Or the leadership trait, and then you could start using those things like from the Sign Knight as their rewards for leveling up, and sort of like an ad hack, you know,
if you wanted to play a
leveling system.
campaign where you're playing mind flayers.
Yeah, just use the stat block and then just give them rewards, and that way, I don't remember exactly what they were, and they're probably going to be adjusted in Tasha's the official version, but like the cyanide abilities don't specifically say like they're all not about when you hit the thing with your weapon attack, as I recall. It was just like you were really tough, like that you couldn't be knocked down, and or, you got like a hit point boost and stuff. So
I remember a lot of control effects,
yeah, well
so,
that's great.
like
So
psychic
that
pushes and stuff like that.
yeah, and that way it would be fun to just play like a mind flayer stat block that also had those class features. It would still let you do cool psionic things that were like nightly, at least in that context.
Yeah, I mean that would be
Throwing
pretty
people
easy to.
around with your
That
mind.
that would be pretty easy to bolt on, and then like even from the DM side of things, it would be
Mm-hmm.
easy to just take those abilities and kind
Yeah,
of slap them on top of it. It
yeah, that'd
probably
be
wouldn't even really change the CR by much at all.
no. Oh, you mean as the yeah, right? I was talking about it if you were players playing those
I
stat
know, I
blocks,
know. I was saying
but
from the
yes,
flip side.
yeah, I guess the more traditional thing would be the DMs using the mind flayers, and yeah, just giving them one or two class features. I mean, spoiler alert, we do that kind of stuff all the time in content. It's like, oh, this feat would make a cool feature in this monster, or this
Yeah,
spell would make a cool feature in this subclass, or just kind of cobbling it together. Yeah, I'll do that.
yeah. Even like in my games, I do that a
It's just
lot.
a shell game.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're just moving things around.
Well, reskinning monsters or just tweaking them slightly is super
Mm-hmm.
easy. Like, oh, I want to use X, but I want
Making
them
a
to have this
magic.
ability from this monster. Just grab that monster ability and just slap it on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's and then the play, then when you do it, the players are like, whoa, they're all
Yeah,
surprised.
I'm most excited for that rune night after talking with Ted last week about runes or the
Uh,
week before, whatever. I started messing around. And I made a bunch of homebrew feats in D&D Beyond that are from Deep Magic, Rune Magic, because you can take it multiple times. So I had to make like rune knowledge 1, rune knowledge 2, rune knowledge 3. And I was like, how many, fighters, they get more feats than any other class, including rogue, 7. And if you take variant human, that's 8.
Yeah.
So I was like, how many runes can I get? And have like rune mastery and stuff like that. So by 20th level, you'd have all but one of the rune knight runes from the subclass. And there's 32 runes in rune magic, and you could get like 14 of them if you just went for those, which would also give you like spells that you could cast because you had that rune, and it'd give you a passive power. Or you could take like rune mastery and get like extra powers for the runes you have and use them more per day. It's like you would never run out of runes. And I was thinking like you'd have so many weird powers, but you're still a fighter. But you might never even swing a sword because it's like you can. I mean, they had weird ones where it's like you inscribe the rune in the air and like can polymorph something like as the spell. Just bizarre things like that. So you could really get crazy with it.
I think I'm the most interested in silly but the thrown weapon fighting style.
Yeah, that's cool. That seems fun. What does it do? I mean, is that like
gives you a +2 to damage, and you draw the weapon as a weapon attack. And so like that's the biggest problem like with making a thrower is you're never able to draw enough weapons. And like I tried thinking about if you dual wield and you took the dual wielder feat, like is there a way to work around? But there just wasn't enough. Like at best, with and really dual wielder, you're taking that for just the extra draw. But I don't even think it works for some of the thrown weapons. So that's the problem because you only get one draw. But if you get the draw as a action, as part of the attack action, then it's not, of the weapon, it's not that big a deal.
You could be a totally kick-ass bullseye too and just not carry anything and just be like, I'm going to throw a rock, a paper clip, there's a broken bottle.
Yeah, you could take improvised weapon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be doing, if you had like a 20 dex and that, you're doing 8 damage at least with every one because it's like 1d4 plus your dex bonus and
although
fighting style.
The fighting style, I think it actually has to be a ranged weapon, or not a ranged weapon, not a. It's gotta have the properties.
Does it?
I think it does.
Well, an improvised weapon can have the thrown property. That's why you can throw it.
I don't know.
I think
I would have to look up the rules and see if that's a thing.
I mean, if some player wanted to play that, I'd be like, hell yeah, that's awesome, right? Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, what's the difference? It's like the only difference is the drain on their gold, basically.
I keep saying, so I keep saying improvised weapons, but it's tavern brawler. You'd have to. That's the feat that would give you proficient, make you proficient with improvised weapons.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun though.
And then I have to look at the wording, but like I feel like the wording is put in a way that it's got to be a weapon with a thrown property. And then obviously that's up to the DM, right? Whether or not,
right,
they would allow it or not. I probably would be like, you want to throw rocks, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true too. I mean, it could even be like a hobbit, like I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it would sort of like evoke that.
That's what hobbit knights fight with rocks,
right? And it would sort of like evoke that sort of, I don't know, fantastical thing where like, sure, he just threw a rock at like a giant spider and it killed it, whereas like in a gritty game it'd be like, come on, really, a rock killed a spider? But it's like, it's a fairy tale, yeah, we threw the little guy threw a rock at the giant thing and felled it with one rock, right?
Michael Melbourne, I'm thinking about a druid that turned all his awakened trees in knights.
The richest druid in the multiverse.
Yeah, for all that agate, right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
He starts a mining company.
Yeah, that's why he needs all those awakened trees. It reminds me in old Dragon magazine there was a subclass or a class or whatever called a druidic knight, and it had a really cool art. I remember. And that seemed like an awesome concept too. They had like wooden plate armor and like big antler helm and stuff, and they were green capes.
I
They're
think I
like
vaguely remember. I also feel like that might be the Fey Paladin a little bit.
Fey Paladin.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, it was definitely called Druidic Knight.
Yeah. No, I'm saying in 5e, that might just be.
Is there a Fey Paladin?
Yeah, yeah. Oath of the
Oh,
Ancients.
the Ancients. Yeah. Speaking of, oh man, is that Fey Wanderer in Tasha's? The Ranger one? That one looked hella fun.
I believe it's in there.
Okay, cool.
I'm kicking myself because the book is upstairs.
Yeah. I think it's in there. I reported on it, but I just don't want to misinform people. It's not 100% sure.
So it says here, Druidic Knight was a form of true neutral paladin that originated from the realm of Robran on the Savage Coast in the world of Mister.
Did you find that Dragon magazine?
No, I just googled
Oh.
Druidic Knight, and then like that's the very first thing that comes
What
up.
D&D wiki?
You might be able to find one on D&D.
But yeah, it's just a cool concept, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, druids are pretty damn capable warriors in their own right. No matter, if you want to focus on being a melee druid, but still cool. Like like you just said, like the Oath of the Ancients. That's like a druidic knight. I mean, one of the monthly fan games I think it was last January. One of the players was an Oath of the Ancients, and his summoned steed was like a giant elk and stuff, and it was pretty cool. Pretty awesome concept. I like that kind of stuff. Like I said, just right back to my original comment. Knights are just cool. They're storybook, they're classic,
Yeah.
they're versatile. Like we said, I like that they can be jerks too. Even in the Arthurian thing. I mean, again, going back to the Excalibur movie, which is where I get a lot of my knightly enthusiasm. But they were jealous of each other.
I was trying to find the Dragon magazine for you, man, but
it was
my Google foo has failed.
Yeah, it was probably like early to mid '80s.
I do miss receiving the Dragon magazine.
I know they still do Dragon Plus, but there was just something different about getting the thing in the mail. I guess that's what Amazon's like now. They're like, I'm gonna get my Tasha's in the mail.
Joe wants to know, do you remember which Dragon magazine in the early '90s that had the extra Dragon? I might have that Dragon magazine. I mean, I got a stack of them right here.
What was that one class in 3.5 that was like got a bunch of auras that were dragon related?
Oh, man, that was in the Dragon book, right? Towards the end.
It was towards the end of 3.5, yeah.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember it.
Was it called just like Dragon Shaman?
There was a Dragon Shaman.
And it just had like different dragon auras.
I don't know if they had the auras or not, but like at that point, like that was I was getting close to the point where I was kind of like checking out as far as like buying books.
Yeah.
And it's just like there was just so many.
I had a lot of PDFs back in the day. I'll just say that. Have you ever played a knight in a game? For even a one shot or any length of time?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think I've ever played a knightly knight character. I know I haven't used the background. I've seen it show up in my games quite a few times. But like always, like the players always just want to have weird followers that do things. Like one of them was a Warforged with a knight background, which had had 3 like non-combat Warforged that follow him around, beep, bop, and boop. And then like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then Ryan's character in our Underdark game, he played a human Oath of Vengeance paladin of the Beggar King that was kind of a knight, but like a fallen knight. And like he had 3 beggars that would follow him around.
Gene played sort of a knight of the Beggar King as well, right?
Yeah.
I miss that was a good character. Did she have many like knightly like material content scenes?
So no, I think that character played well that way. I don't remember what their background was.
Oh,
I don't. They didn't have a knight
oh, she
background. I'm
was
pretty sure.
a gnome, right? That was like
Polymorphed a tiefling. I
into a
think.
what? Was it a tiefling?
I think so because of the tail, and we joke
Yeah,
about the
yeah, yeah,
tail
yeah,
when
yeah,
her cat was like hanging out, right?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think yeah they played a tiefling that was a gnome that got reincarnated. I think.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, yeah, and then I think they were trying to get turned back into a gnome.
Mm-hmm. I believe that was part of her epilogue.
And I'm not so sure that it ever happened. So
I think it did in the final
in
episode.
the final episode,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd have to go back and watch it. It's been a few years since I ran that game.
Night feels like a good go-to to me. I often play those in games where there's like a new system or people I don't really know, or it's just kind of like a good, easy trip. It's like, no, it's not hard to imagine why they'd go on an adventure.
Yeah.
They're tough. They're usually going to do the right thing, which is
Well,
I kind of like to play characters like that are generally good and stuff. So, and it just kind of like telegraphs to everybody like your shtick, you know. It's just like,
even better is like if you're a knight, then you probably essentially there's someone that can order you on quests, right?
yeah,
So if the players are knights, that is kind of super easy.
yeah,
And
that's true.
and also like it might change, like in the D&D world, it might change what a knight looks like because of all the different character classes and you
Mm-hmm.
know if a knight is kind of just someone that swears fealty and they follow a certain code, right? Like couldn't
Mm-hmm.
anybody kind of be that?
You know, I mean, if you just look at the knight background, which is cool because it's like your wizard could be a knight, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really say like you're an armored, meter
Mm-mm.
out of justice. It's like you understand wealth, power, and privilege. You carry a noble title, and your family owns land, collects taxes, and wields political influence. And that's it, pretty much. I mean, there's yada yada yada,
Well,
but
also too,
it
it's
doesn't
like
say like you're some, errant, adventurer.
and I honestly like like if someone has the right rank and title, they can just grant you a knight, right? You don't
Right.
actually have to be like. I mean, it still happens today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like those people are necessarily knights, right? They're not like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right. Like actors and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Like
like
Knight of the Realm. Yeah, that's true.
like the qualifications really are: did someone want to give you the title of knight or not?
Yeah, and that really reminds me of oddly enough the social videos, the social villains video from today and the article that went with it. Um, if you like, I would love like the coolest thing is to me as a DM is when players like if you choose a knight background like come up with a knighthood like like I
Yeah,
said it's like oh you have these weird retainers it's like give me something like what's cool about that to you like I want to know like what you imagine being a knight is like and maybe it's like that maybe like yeah I'm just some like accomplished painter that's really
yeah,
popular and I got knighted by the ruler of the land I'm from or maybe you are like a questing knight on like it's out to get something like yeah, and it reminded me of the social thing because looking through the DMG and the rules on social interactions, and I'm sorry, in the player's handbook, when it describes its social interactions, it even refers you to your personality as what you should use as a guide for social interactions, and it was and your background. It was like that chapter
okay,
and I was like, when people are like, there's no rules and there's no guidelines, it's like it plainly says right there, like when you're in a social interaction, this is the things that influence that, who you are, what you did. If you're a knight, it's like it's not just something that you write in so you can have goofy retainers. You can. I'm not saying you playing your D&D is wrong, but that should be what helps you do those social interactions. Like, what would when you think about why you're a knight, what that means, then when you're in situations, it gives you some idea how they would react, how they would interact socially with people in that world.
yeah. Like so, I think Ryan's character was a knight, but like he was like ordered to do something like really shitty, and he did it, and then like maybe killed his commander or something, and then just became a drunk, and then like the Beggar King is like, "Hey, I choose you," and and so he would always just like end up places, kind of like um randomly to like
Mhm.
fix things that are wrong. Like that was kind of
Like
like
Michael Landon on on Highway to Heaven.
exactly like that. only
Oh man,
only drunker and shittier.
who was his Mark? You know, the guy
Um,
with the Oakland A's cap that was like his mortal guide. Did he have
uh,
one?
maybe his
Sweatpants?
retainers,
Oh, okay.
which were like a goblin, a kenku, and I think a human beggar. They're all beggars.
Nice. Man, I used to love that show. It was wholesome.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven or Highway to Heaven. What was it? Yeah,
Highway to
that's a
Heaven.
Led
Stairway
Zeppelin
to Heaven.
song.
I don't think they got the let out on Highway to Heaven doing that.
No,
Maybe though. I don't know. He ended up in some seedy places now and again
yeah.
where angelic intervention was needed.
So now, so now maybe now I have to find a place to play a night.
Hmm. Who knows? Maybe your Goblin Alchemist will become a knight.
I'll get knighted. I don't know. That doesn't well maybe, but I feel like
You could play a knight in Ted's Dirtarchy Tuesday night game. Or
yeah.
did you already have a character in mind for that?
I no, I have no idea. I don't think that far ahead.
Yeah, I kind of want to play a generic human fighter type in that. Or maybe the Rune Knight. Get into those runes, see how many runes I can do without.
So
Maybe I'll just be like a fighter in name only. It's like I'm just a rune nerd. Like I'll just draw runes in the air and inscribe them on my armor and stuff. Because you can do all kind of crazy things, even with the regular fighter in the Tasha's runes. Like if an attack happens anywhere within 30 feet, you can just like invoke the sky rune and just like whoosh, and it just goes awry and stuff as a reaction.
did you know that there are approximately 3,000 living knights today?
Really?
Knights and dames.
I didn't know that. To get collectively, there's 3,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention one of my knights is this Kickstarter I got a while ago. It's called Knights of Gartania.
Uh huh.
It's just got really goofy art, and it's just like some illustrator who came up with these knights, and then they decided to like sort of D&Dize them lightly. They're not super crunchy or even very good. Like you see, this guy's got a 2 intelligence and
Yeah.
stuff. But they're all just sort of like this guy's the kettle knight. You see, like his head is a kettle, and it's sort of like just this fictional world where like there's all kind of goofy knights, like the oil knight, just like a barrel of oil with legs. Iron knight is like an iron for a head, and they have all these like intricate like relationship trees that it's like this guy's married to blah blah blah, and then their kids are like somewhat related, like a fire knight and like Lady Waterfall's kids, like the steam knight and stuff like that. It's fun.
And that's RPG.
No, it was just like some illustrator that liked drawing those knights, and then he's like, maybe somebody said, "Hey, you should like just give these guys D&D stats," and he was like, "Okay." I don't think he was like a D&D player, so just sort of cobble together. But I think it would be fun to actually play a campaign and actually use these crazy things. Like here's one rope knight, 3 strength, 17 wisdom, 13 dex, 14 intelligence, 12 and 2 charisma. His weapon is a rope maker. And they have like just cantrips and spells. Like they're not, I don't want to say like correct D&D characters, but they're sort of just cobbled together, with like
Ish D&D characters ish.
I think it would be fun to play a campaign and have players like pick out the knights that they like and see.
Yeah. Sure.
It's
Why not?
topiary night. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that for my campaign.
Just play knights. Nice. Well, that the character art's there. Maybe reach out to the.
I did already. They were totally cool about it. His name's Nathan Hill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I tried to book him on live chat, but he's in the UK and the timing just didn't work out.
Yeah, yeah.
I
He's
was like,
like,
yeah, I might, I was like, rerun a game on Tuesday night. This was a while ago, and I was like, I was thinking about having the players pick these and use them. He's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. He's like, if you do, let me know. I'd love to watch it.
nice.
So go check him
Cool.
out, Nathan Hill, Knights of Tanya, if you want to go Google it or look
So
it up on the website. I probably mentioned it somewhere.
start with nights, we end with nights.
Yeah.
And speaking of endings, it is 9 o'clock somewheres like here. So it's about that time for us to wrap things up for the evening. But we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow with the live chat, daily live chat with a new guest. And tomorrow night we'll be running some more Cypher System. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy. Nailed it.